Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Smith, and as we continue to progress in this capstone project, here I am this evening giving you an update into our current activities as it relates to our response to this tragic winter storm. The general audience who I am briefing this evening is the mayor's office, the governor's office, the director of FEMA, and the Secretary of Homeland Security. So without further ado, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Smith, and up to this point, I have been serving as the Emergency Regional Coordinator for Burlington, Vermont. As many of you are well aware, we have suffered through the worst winter storm in our state's history. After several days of dangerous weather, the National Weather Center has issued an update that sees our temperatures returning to almost seasonal norms, roughly 20 degrees, with temperatures in the evenings possibly dropping as low as 0. Over the next couple of days, there is a slight chance for snow, hovering around 20%, and the winds will remain roughly 5 to 10 miles per hour. Overall, while this weather to some may be considered extreme, it is a much needed break from days of ice and snow. Now let's look about the progression of our response and our recovery efforts. At one point in time, we were sitting at 575,000 households and businesses without power. Our response was greatly hindered by ice-covered roads and downed trees. We have deployed many of our snow clearing capabilities and have been able to make some headway in the major downtown streets of Burlington, and a list of priority streets has been furnished to that Public Works Department, and we are making headway there. We anticipate, with the clearing of roads and the clearing of downed trees, that the restoration of power will increase in its capability to erect new power lines and new poles. We still do not have a timeline for when all this work will be completed. To give you an idea of the extent of the damage in regards to our power grid, we saw 1,000 electrical pylons destroyed, 130 large pylons for the 735 kilowatt transformers, 60 medium pylons were destroyed, 80 pylons for the 120 kilowatt transformers destroyed, and then we saw 25,000 transmission poles. These are the wooden beams supporting these power lines destroyed. So the extent of the damage is grave, ladies and gentlemen, and Velco, our power company, has not given us a timeline for when we will see a full restoration of power. In response to this storm, we have seen nearly 3,000 National Guardsmen deployed throughout the state, up to 1,200 of which have been operating in the Burlington area. Their initial deployment was again hindered by snow and ice, yet some cleared highways supported their deployment into our area and have begun to make themselves useful in the recovery of personnel and family pets to our shelters that we were able to identify and utilize. Talking about shelters, in response to this storm, we were able to identify shelters throughout the entire district of Burlington that had an initial capacity of up to 60,000. We have worked with the American Red Cross to provide beds, food, and shelter kits to those citizens who sought shelter. We issued a mandatory evacuation order. However, due to legal concerns, we did not force citizens who failed to comply with the order to vacate their residence. We work to allow for families to bring their pets to accompany them during the duration of the storm to ease the hardship on many of these families who reluctantly wanted to come but felt compassion for their extended family. Further, we have formed many private partnerships, most notably Walmart, who has graciously agreed to provide food and supplies for up to 45,000 people for the next 30 days. All of this food is being staged at a local store and is being distributed and worked through the Emergency Operations Center at the Mayor's office. Speaking of the Emergency Operations Cell, it still is in operation 24 hours a day with a dedicated phone line to coordinate efforts. Our police officers are currently providing support to shelters for security and also addressing an increase in crime and theft in our metropolitan areas. Our hospitals are in desperate need of blood and fuel for generators to continue to respond to this crisis. Our fire department has spent through its entire overtime budget in response to the storm as of right now. We will need additional funding to continue to provide for these staff members as they themselves continue to provide a service to our great community. Several of our buildings have flooded, and others have been victim to fire damage as a result of secondary heating sources. Speaking of these flooded buildings and secondary heating sources, we have not been met without tragedy alongside our infrastructure. The latest numbers we have for death and injuries are as follows. We have lost 10 of our citizens from hypothermia, fire, and carbon monoxide poisoning. 30 people have been hospitalized with ice-related injuries, including broken legs, hips, and arms. Again, our hospitals, our emergency personnel, our police, and our road crews are working tirelessly around the clock to help mitigate the effects of this storm. Your support has been greatly appreciated, and I thank you for taking the time to tour our city. My office, in conjunction with several other offices, are looking to draft a National Incident Management System plan that will address operations, planning, logistics, and finance administration. The National Incident Management System, or NIMS, provides a consistent nationwide template to enable all first responder organizations and other critical agencies to work together efficiently during a domestic incident or event, such as what we have faced over the past couple of days. In looking at our plan, we have identified emergency steps which we believe must be implemented in responding to these types of events. The establishment of an incident command structure, delegation of authorities, utilizing state emergency operations center, alerting the general population, and evacuating as needed. Activating your own emergency operations center. Contacting the shelter coordinator and the American Red Cross. And determining if additional operational staff is needed. And then, at the step we currently are right now, is assessing the damage from the storm. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time, I thank you for your efforts, and I thank you for your attention. At this time, if I have any questions, I will take them now.